How long? 30 years. One time, yeah. And one time I just changed now. I just accelerated and just jumped into the lower gear. And this next to the cop, and he just pulled over and he could come up and he got speeding. I was like, sorry.
It sounds like you were looking.
Yeah. It's like you don't need a warning. Just drop it. Make a hole.
I knew he was you.
There it is. There's the order. And Johnny.
Got the mayor's super. Monica. Monica.
That's 2 minutes in the last name. Jay.
I want to thank everybody for being here. I got some good news. Early this morning, detectives, BRPD, were able to arrest Kenneth James Gleason, 23-year-old white male, for the brutal murders of Bruce Cofield and Donald Smart last week. He will be charged by BRPD with 2 counts of first-degree murder and illegal use of a weapon. The Sheriff's Office also has the charges, and I'm going to allow the Sheriff an opportunity to speak on those. First off, I want to praise the work of all the investigators and uniform officers involved in this case. It is proof that the Violent Crimes Unit, which was formed in 2011, which incorporates BRPD, the Sheriff's Office, the State Police Crime Lab, which was instrumental in breaking this case, and FBI and the ATF as well, is a valuable tool in the fight against violent crime in East Baton Rouge Parish. Baton Rouge has been through a lot of turmoil in the last year. I think that had there not been a swift conclusion to this case, I feel confident that this killer would have probably killed again. He could have potentially created a tear in the fabric that holds this community together, and I just can't speak highly enough of all of the investigators that were part of this arrest and this Violent Crimes Unit, including everybody that I just mentioned. I'm going to turn it over to District Attorney Hiller Moore, who's going to kind of go over the timeline of events with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. First, a few comments. You can only have been here at the VCU over the past few days to see the effort, the excitement, and the collaboration by all of the law enforcement agencies. It was incredible to see and to experience. I'm so proud to be part of this team, not only on this case, but every case that we work. In this case, evidence, citizen cooperation, hard police work, and technology, as well as a bit of good fortune, all played roles in getting to us to where we are today. We still have a lot of work ahead of us, but it's incredible the amount of work that was done in this case so quickly, but more so in the NIBIN work that you'll hear about a little bit with shell casings, in the DNA turnaround. This was done in days. It's not only done just in this case, which is more high profile in this case, but it's actually done on all of the cases that we have. We really enjoy the benefit of the collaboration with all the federal agencies, particularly with the NIBIN work that we have. I'd like to describe to you some events and some dates that will later on become important, because I know that you have had questions on those. So some of the important dates right now are November 9th, 2016, the defendant buys a weapon from a location in Baton Rouge. The model is a CZ model 75 9mm. There are 3 different cases that are involved here. One was involving Browning ammunition. that was bought when he bought the weapon. The second was federal ammunition, which was found on Florida and Acadian. And the third was MagTech plus P found on Alaska. Obviously, 3 different types of shell cases had found in 3 different scenes. July 2017, he purchases a silencer from another location in Baton Rouge. That silencer had not yet been received. It was on order. It takes several months for that to come in. It did not come in, thankfully. August 5th of this year, he completed a concealed carry permit class. However, had not yet received his concealed carry permit. Particularly with regard to the facts that led eventually to his arrest, we started on Monday, September 11th at about 0038 hours with a shooting where nobody was injured at Sandy Ridge Drive, which is the same street as his home, not far from his home, where that home was shot 3 times with a 9mm, where 3 shell casings were found, as well as 1 projectile. That home was occupied at the time by citizens living in the home. That was reported to the sheriff's office. That case was worked. At that time, no one had any idea of any suspect at that point, and the shell cases were eventually collected. On that same day, the sheriff's office received a call from an employee at Jiffy Lube, and that Jiffy Lube reported that they saw someone putting a gun in bushes. And that was followed up by the uniformed patrol officers of the sheriff's office. They made a report. No gun was recovered. There was no video that was recovered. However, a description at that time was given as a white male in a red car. Again, nothing to be connected at that point. Later, on Tuesday, September 12th, the following day, Customs Security calls either a station in Baton Rouge, one of the police stations, or calls police headquarters. It indicates that when they were looking at their own security through their own cameras in their parking lot, they saw a white male standing behind a red car, and it appears as if he took the license plate off of his car, and it appears as if he put a gun inside of the trunk of his vehicle. The BRPD did not initially respond to that call. It was just a call. It did not eventually make it, I don't think, to dispatch. But the video that was captured and the still photographs were able to be recovered were kept, and they were put on a jump drive, which we'll get to a little bit later. Tuesday, September 12th, as you know, at 22:32 hours, at 3400 Florida Boulevard by Acadian, Bruce Cofield was killed. And witnesses describe a red car and a white male wearing tactical gear. And there is some video there to sort the scene, but obviously the video that we were not really able to use very much. At 22:29 hours that day, we later learned that there's some video from Walgreens at Government and Acadian, and soon close to there at Mid-South. We find that video. We know that the video was taken on that day, right after the homicide. However, we don't know about the video until Friday. Wednesday, September 13th, Books A Million at 10:46. Books A Million reports to the sheriff's office that someone came in the store and stole a book. The book that was stolen was called The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The sheriff's office took the report, and in that report they indicate that there was a white male with a red car, and potentially they could identify that person. At that point, things have not linked up. No one really knows about that report for a stolen book that's a couple of dollars worth of a book. Thursday, September 14th at 23:08 hours at 3014 Alaska Street, Donald Smart is killed. He's killed with 10 9mm rounds, and those were recovered, those shell casings were recovered, along with 1 projectile. There is some video of a red car on Alaska Street. That video is not very descriptive and was not very helpful to us. There are 2 witnesses who potentially describe white male in a red car. Things are now starting to come together, the white male in a red car. And again, at some point of this, we still don't have the description of the Books A Million and the Customs Security at the time. On Friday, September 15th, the shell cases that had been picked up from the 2 scenes appear to be the same caliber, 9mm. We have 2 African Americans that are killed, seem to be killed in the same manner. That is the car, the red car that's driving by, shoots from the car, that eventually, after that person is taken down to the ground, then gets out the car and apparently stands over the victim after the victim is injured or dead and continues to fire. NIBIN, that is the National Integrated Ballistics Network, that's run through the ATF office, they confirmed those hits on Friday that these projectiles are shot from the same weapon. At this point, the Sandy Ridge shooting, which is the first one, has not yet been linked or really put together. On that same day, on September 15th, right after we hear of the NIBIN hits, the Baton Rouge Police Department receives a call back from Customs Security indicating that they have this footage of a red car and a white male. Baton Rouge Police goes to Customs Security, and they pick up a video which has the description of a red car and a white male is described as taking the license plate off the back of the car and potentially putting some duct tape over, which is obviously an American flag and a business where the car was potentially bought. This is telltale sign. You'll also notice in the bumper, there's a dent in the bumper. That's picked up. At that point, the lieutenants of the Baton Rouge Police Department are notified by Captain Ricky Arnett that we have a red car and a white male, and gives them descriptions of this. At this point is where the Baton Rouge Police Uniform Patrol, Sheriff's Office Uniform Patrol, and the State Police Uniform Patrol work their tails off to try to find this red car. And in fact, on Saturday, September 16th, Baton Rouge Police spot the vehicle, which matches the description, in fact matches it well, and stops this vehicle and takes this defendant in custody. You'll note the American flag again and the license plates on the back of the car. You'll also note the same dent in the back of the bumper. This officer that actually stopped him was working for free, extra duty, just trying to find this vehicle, and in fact does. Later that day, many different search warrants are issued. This defendant is booked in jail. Interview is conducted. On Sunday, September 17th, he's released on a $3,500 bond for the charges that he had. And then again on yesterday, Monday, September 18th, he's rearrested on the book theft from the Sheriff's Office. Early this morning, through the hard work of the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab and Joni Boccato, we were notified early this morning that the Crime Lab, who had worked diligently all night long, had processed all of this DNA evidence, which is an incredible amount of work, that they link the DNA on Alaska Street, that is the shell casings taken, DNA taken from shell casings to this defendant, swab was taken to this defendant. The crime lab is now working on DNA from another location and are waiting further results before anything is announced. This is extremely unusual to not only receive NIBIN results so quickly and DNA received so quickly, however, to actually receive and find DNA on expended shell casings is something that just doesn't happen across the nation. And it's a credit to the men and women of the police department that look for shell casings through ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter technology was used here, that actually pick them up, that swab them in the right manner, that get them to the crime lab, and then the crime lab, which is the best in the nation, go through and do the work that they did. This has been a fantastic effort. Just want to be very proud of. We have a whole lot of work left to go. A lot of information being obtained through the computers. The FBI has done a fabulous job with phone information, computers, and there's so much more to do. And I just continue to expect good results. Thank you. Sheriff?
Thank you, Hiller. Good morning. First of all, let me reiterate what has already been said by Hiller and Chief Dunham. The Violent Crime Unit here at the State Police was formed back in 2011. And it's a perfect example of what cooperation and collaboration can do when we're trying to fight crime. All of the agencies involved here, and I think the public needs to realize this. This isn't something that just happens once in a while. What you see and what you heard from Hiller behind this investigation takes place each and every day here. The men and women who are part of this violent crime unit or sit across from each other, they talk to each other, they work with each other every day. And with their help through the crime lab, it's just an invaluable tool. And in my opinion, it's something that the rest of the nation needs to look at because this has gone a long way in fighting violent crime, but more so in solving violent crimes, especially homicides. So I want to commend the collaborative effort and the results of this arrest. These cases were solved as a result of around-the-clock 24/7 investigative efforts. Oftentimes, as law enforcement, with an ongoing and active case, we can't release all the details of our investigation to the media or the public, but I'm here to tell you that there's extensive work going on behind the scenes in all of these cases. The VCU worked diligently to solve and develop a timeline of our alleged shooters and movements, and as a result, they were able to arrest Gleason for a theft of a book and book him in Parish Prison while the Louisiana State Police Crime Lab worked throughout the night to process evidence from the crimes. I want to commend the men and women that worked so hard to solve this case. This case, as I said, exemplifies the importance of us working together side by side for the safety of our community. Our involvement in this case is as stated by Hiller. We arrested Gleason yesterday for the theft of a book at the Books A Million at Town Center on Wednesday, September the 13th. The book was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He walked out without paying, identified through license plate and photographic lineup. It is imperative to our agencies that we keep the community safe while processing evidence. He is also being charged in the Monday morning, September the 11th shooting on Sandy Ridge, in which a resident was hit multiple times. 2 residents were inside, but fortunately no one was injured. All of these things are going to eventually link him together. And once again, I'm very thankful that we were successful through the diligence and hard work 24/7 of all the people that were involved in this case, and that it resulted in taking this very dangerous criminal off the streets. Garner?
Sure. I think there's one word to describe this effort that we've seen here over the last couple of days, and that's teamwork. And that's what the VCU is all about, is a collaborative effort between the agencies in this area, the district attorney's office, the federal agencies, and the crime lab. I think when you saw all those disciplines come together, we saw a successful conclusion to this tragic event. So I'd like to thank Joni and her team at the crime lab for working into the night and through the night to tie this forensic evidence to this case. So we really appreciate the efforts of everyone involved and of all the agencies involved. Thank you.
Our Baton Rouge Police Department officers and everyone that you see up here, from the Sheriff's Department to the state police to our DA's office, all of those involved in law enforcement, I want to thank them and commend them for their diligence in identifying and ultimately apprehending the alleged killer of 2 of our residents. While the motive is still unclear, this person is off of our streets, and I'm confident that they will continue to solve other crimes that have plagued our city as of late. I am in constant communication with Chief Dunham, and I'm very aware of the crimes that are being committed against people in our community. And I'm also aware of the hard work being done by all of these people who stand here today, as well as the men and women of the Baton Rouge Police Department, all law enforcement officials in our area. As you heard, they are indeed working in collaboration. I also want to thank the citizens of our community who have been alert and responsive. As I've said before, it takes all of us working together to combat crime in our community. I'm committed to doing everything in my power as Mayor President to ensure that our law enforcement officials have the resources that they need to protect everyone in our city and in our parish. As I've said before, we all must work together to make sure that violence is not the norm in our community. and my administration will continue to collaborate with law enforcement, the DA's office, and the community to ensure that we live in a safe, equitable place where we are all proud to call our home. My thoughts and prayers continue to be with families of these victims and others who have been affected by violence here in our city. No family should ever have to mourn a loved one whose life was taken by such a heinous act. Once again, thank you to everybody here who has worked diligently night after night to bring closure to this case and to work to address crime in our community. Thank you.
Okay, we'd like to thank you for coming. If you have any questions that you may want to ask, now is the time to ask. It's going to be brief if you have any questions. It's not going to be long, and we'll have the different personnel come up and answer those questions.
Do you still suspect these shootings were racially motivated, all three, or two of three, and can you explain why? Why not?
It's an ongoing investigation. We're not completely closed off to that. We're looking at all possibilities at this particular time, so we're not going to just pinpoint that. We're looking at all aspects of this case along with the motive. We're going to continue to talk to Mr. Gleason to see if we can get some additional information as to the reason why. So we're not going to speculate that at this particular time.
There were reports that inside his home were found kind of some disturbing material, possibly Nazi-related or even satanic. Can you confirm that at all?
Not at this particular time. It's an ongoing investigation. Certain things surrounding the investigation we will not disclose.
This question is by for Hiller. Have you determined whether or not you'll seek the death penalty against this defendant?
Well, first of all, these are allegations against this defendant. He's presumed innocent, and so we'll start with that. At this point, based on the evidence we have, it's statutorily, this is surely a potential death penalty case. In fact, the statute that we would track in this case is the one that was enacted after Sean Gillis and by Ms. Prem Burns and Cheney Joseph through the DA's office here, where the successive homicides where people are killed with specific intent to kill. This is a potential death penalty case. If you just take the allegations, it appears to be cold, calculated, planned by people who were unarmed and defenseless. If the allegations are that he shot from a car and then the person exits the car and stands over someone, that's extremely troubling. I don't know what his mind, I don't know what his motive is. We don't need to prove motive. There are a lot of things that are unanswered, but at this point, surely the death penalty is one that will be strongly considered. Normally in these cases, we wait to speak with family members, and we have to make a legal declaration eventually, and I can't do that at this point. I can only tell you that surely is something that is strongly being considered amongst our office, but I want to speak to these victims' family members. And also, I forgot to mention that the DNA crime lab folks from the state police are in the back of the room. All the work that these technicians did was just unbelievable. And the firearms people as well. I'm sorry for not been. Thank you, Jimmy Cricket.
Did Gleason say anything to explain why he did what he did?
He made statements, but at this point, I don't think it would be appropriate to say what he said. It's a lot of discussion. So right now, it's really premature.
Right, you mentioned you obtained a concealed carry permit. Can you tell us where he obtained that?
I'd rather not at this point just so draw attention to the play, but he did, and I'd rather not draw attention to where he bought the weapon. I don't know if it's relevant because we don't find it relevant at this point, but surely eventually it's a public record. It's not a big secret, it's just not. I'm sorry, Grace?
You talked about the DNA that you guys found. Was that touch DNA, or I guess where did that come from?
If you have a weapon, you load your weapon with shells, the DNA would be on the outside of the shell casing. Again, this is something that people may take for granted here nationwide. You don't. This is an incredible find that we had, and have it on 2 different sets of shell cases and potentially now a 3rd. I think they'll be talking about this across the nation and surely at the ATF. I'm sorry, Chris.
If you guys determine that race did play a factor in these murders, will hate crime charges possibly be added?
Yeah, so I knew the question would be asked, but hate crime. So let's say this is a death penalty case. What are you going to do adding a term on to a death sentence? It's not going to do any good. What are you going to do adding a term onto a life sentence? life. You can't kill them twice. You can have 2 lives. And under case law, you can only enhance a sentence once. So I would believe that probably hate crime would be not likely, because your enhancement would be potentially the death penalty. And it would really be insignificant, assuming that there would be a life sentence or death, which I can only assume, and again, he is presumed innocent.
What was the race of the occupants in the first home where he shot?
Those homeowners were African American.
And how far was their house from where he lived with his parents?
Not very far.
Did he know them?
I don't know that. That's the same neighborhood that he lived in.
Are you investigating whether or not there are any other shootings besides the 3 you mentioned that he was involved in?
Everything is under investigation by these folks. There will continue once we leave here today. We're going to meet to discuss what's needed with the FBI and the computers and the phones and other things that ATF is going to do. But just the legwork that all these different agencies are going to do, they have a lot of work to do.
So Mr. Gleason was arrested in Phoenix in December on a shoplifting charge, and he apparently told people he was homeless then. Do you have any idea whether or not his homeless status last year had something at all to do with him shooting a homeless person?
I have no idea, but we have heard that. And that's something that obviously we're going to look into with Arizona.
Do you believe anyone was connected to or with him in working in these killings, or was he working alone?
Nothing has developed to that nature whatsoever.
How many guns have you recovered from him?
At this point, we're searching for weapons.
Does he have any medical history of mental illness or anything that you've been able to determine?
We have no knowledge of any of that.
Was there any reaction from Gleason's family upon the arrest?
I didn't speak with the family, so I'm not sure, but I'm sure that his family is not doing well, and this is difficult.
So you have not recovered any weapons at all?
At this point, we're looking for weapons. Any citizens that have any information, we surely like them to call the Baton Rouge Police or Crime Stoppers.
Thank y'all for coming. Any questions you may want to ask, please speak to the respective agencies after we close here. So we appreciate you coming, and thank you for working with us.